You're listening to another episode of Mr. Allard's Neighborhood. This is the place where you're entitled to Brad's opinion. And now for your host, Brad Allard.
Well, good morning. Hope y'all enjoyed the rain last night. Lord knows we needed it. And apparently we're going to have some more. I have Debbie Beeman here at Promises Community. We're going to talk about Thanksgiving plans because that's around the corner. To me, of all the holidays, I like Thanksgiving the best.
It's my favorite as well.
You know, because it has football and food and yeah, you have to deal with family. But still, no, I just like it a lot better.
Yeah.
But for a lot of people, Thanksgiving's a pretty big deal.
I agree.
We're having it at our house for the first time in a long time because my parents are getting up there in age, and it's kind of a burden. And my sister, who lives near them, is going to be out of town, so we're going to do it at our house, and we're going to have the traditional Thanksgiving tamales or fajitas or whatever. I'm not a big turkey fan.
I do like turkey, but for the first time ever in my life, I am skipping Thanksgiving with family and me and a group of friends who are widows, and their families are with in-laws. So we are taking a widow's trip.
Oh, yeah?
And going to be gone for that week, so
Vegas,
I'm looking forward to it.
No, whatever.
We're doing the Hill Country tour.
Oh, well, this time of year would be great.
Yes.
That'd be very nice. And
Looking forward to it.
Well, I haven't been in Hill Country in a while, but I have an aunt that lives down there in the Bulverde area, and so it's very nice.
Yes, it is very nice, and shouldn't be too crowded at this time of year. So
You hope not.
We're looking forward to it.
Well, that's good. I mean, you need a vacation like that, and you're going to be, because you're going to need it. I mean, you're going to need the rest afterwards. Because is it just my assumption that y'all pick up in business around Thanksgiving time?
We do. Certainly that's even more. I was looking at numbers. We're probably going to end October somewhere around 700 visits and families. That's not individuals, but families. And we had thought we had gotten really kind of to the top when we were running about 590 to 625. And we're going to end closer to 700. So we have people waiting as long as 15, 20 minutes just to get able to shop in our pantry. So things are not slowing down at all.
Well, speaking of not slowing down, these sponsors aren't slowing down for sure, and we'll run through them real quick so we can get back to the material here. CrossFit Burleson, 317 Southwest Wilshire. Thank you for all your support and everything you'll do. CrossFitBurleson.com will tell you about the plans and the classes and the training and the sponsors of they'll monitor your workout and all this. So it's a good place to go and really become more physically fit. Also, Shandy Stogsdill, she's asking about does she like everybody like her new glasses or not? So check out her page and tell her yes or no, we like your new glasses. But she also check out her page for the real estate deals, because I had yesterday, or Tuesday rather, I had Sammy Campbell and Candy Gow, who have started their new mortgage company, Camco, and we were talking a lot about real estate. And between those two and Shandy, I think they'll help you get through this, navigate through all this stuff. But things are, a lot of parts of the country, the home values are dropping and all this other stuff. Here, they're still pretty good. So you need somebody to hold your hand through all this. Also, Auto at our place, I think I'll be there tomorrow, as a matter of fact. But it's a great place to do business, and it's just a comfortable atmosphere, and it's a very welcoming atmosphere. One thing I told him one time, he didn't even notice it, which tells me a lot about Auto. I walked in and said, "You have a very eclectic, diverse crowd," and he goes, I never noticed that before. But you walk in there, and it is a very diverse crowd, which tells me a lot about Auto in our place. Also, thank you to Wild Place. Also, very similar, very diverse clientele. I've been there several times. And you see all people from all walks of life. It's a very welcoming place. I'll be dropping by today for a little sponsor care and whatnot, and tell you about the plans they have for, I know they have something tomorrow night for the Ranger game. Are you a baseball fan?
I am a huge baseball fan.
Yeah, so am I. And so they got something going on tomorrow night for the Rangers in the World Series, which if you'd have asked me 6 months ago, I'd have thought that's not a sentence I'll be saying very often.
Exactly.
But Wild Cigar over at the Standard. Also, Tiffany Nico. Her magazine comes out next week. It's always really, really good. I see it a lot of places, not just in the 30,000 homes, because I don't go to 30,000 homes, check out their mail, but I do see it in a lot of businesses. And so that's, it's more than just the 30,000 people get it mailed to. There's a lot of people that will, while they're waiting on their oil to be changed or waiting on something else, waiting, or sitting in line waiting for whatever service they're waiting on, they can pick up that magazine and look through it. So it gets a lot more coverage than just the mail outs. Also, Cody O'Brien at Burleson Buzz, he'll be on in about a month. I'll be interested to talk with him. He's a young man we visited several times when he started in this enterprise, and it gives local news, and you don't get that much anymore without a daily newspaper. So you'll get some updates of what's going on in the city council, what's going on the school systems, the sports scores, any major news, breaking news, whatnot. So check out Burleson Buzz. Okie dokie. To go back to the Thanksgiving theme, it was just my assumption that you get a lot of people that are, that maybe couldn't buy week to week, but they want to do something special for their families, and so that was kind of what I had in mind when I thought business would pick up.
It does. We actually at Promises we target senior adults, and it is by invitation. But you have to be at least 63 years of age and be in Johnson County, and of course be connected in some way to Promises. But these folks are ones that, while some do get SNAP or food stamps, the average is between $15 to $20 a month, which you can't live on. And
I never understood is it that little? Because a lot of people talk about the billions we spend on food stamps, or the SNAP program, whatever else. It sure doesn't seem like it's going to a lot of people.
It is definitely not going to senior citizens, and so we will provide them a turkey. We'll provide them the fixings for a traditional turkey or Thanksgiving dinner. They just have to drive through. They don't even have to get out. We have everything boxed or bagged for them and put it in their car, and even have our ministers out there to give a little prayer with them for the year. And it's a great opportunity for us to target specifically our senior adults. So we're looking forward to that. That'll be on Monday the 20th. And we are currently collecting food for that because, as you can imagine, it takes quite a bit of food to put all of that together.
I would imagine. Where are you getting the turkeys? Because I know they're hard to find sometimes.
They are, and we're a little concerned this year. We normally, City Market lets us piggyback off of them. Kurt will do that. We have to do it in February, so we anticipate. So we ordered 50 turkeys from City Market that should be coming in any day. The food bank normally gets them, but they've told us this year they're not thinking they're going to get any. So we'll probably be needing to make some purchases. We'll reach out to our church and ask them to donate. But normally we are able to order them in February and then usually get the other half from the food bank, which is extremely economical if you can get them.
That's what Jennifer was saying on Monday, is that some similar, that first of all, it surprised me to order the turkeys like 10 months in advance.
Yes.
But also the fact that they're concerned that they're not going to have enough. And, I'm about to go to the grocery store after this, and I have seen that most of the turkeys either are very expensive,
Yes.
very small,
Yes.
or non-existent.
Exactly.
And, and so,
Exactly. Even some of the places that we've been able to get good prices for a good medium-sized turkey, we target a meal that would feed 2 to 4. But yeah, we're praying for turkeys this year.
Well, but the thing about it, like I mentioned earlier, we're having at our house the Thanksgiving. We're not going to have turkey because I'm not a big fan, but we do it once a year, and we'd have ham with it as well.
Right.
Is it possible that instead of turkeys, that they're going to be so hard to find, that you go to ham or chicken?
We do. We will purchase some of the larger roaster chickens. And some ham. Some families prefer the ham, like your family. If they go for the ham.
Well, my mother gets it for me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And one of my nieces. But we have turkey.
Yeah.
But this year, like I said, we're just going to do what we want to do. We may grill out. I mean, it's but that kind of thing. It's like, if I were in that situation where I'm coming to a food pantry and said, we don't have any turkeys, but we have a roasted chicken, I'd say, thank you very much.
Exactly.
I don't imagine they say, well, my goodness, I'm going to take my business elsewhere. They're going to. So I know it's traditional, and families want to maintain traditions. you know, you say a lot of your clients are older and they probably
Right.
remember the day and that kind of stuff, and they want to, what family they have, they want to share that tradition. But
Right.
you know, I'd take a chicken over hamburger helper every day. You know, so
Well, our seniors love this. Seniors are a generation that cook from scratch. And the younger generations do not. So our seniors like this. It's not necessarily from scratch because you might have a can of green beans to make a green bean casserole, but you're
green
cooking
beans.
something that you can see. I love green beans.
see,
but
and so did Jennifer, and I was like, I hate green beans, but
it's my favorite. But they love that, to be able to put something together, and it allows them to make a pie and some fruit and green bean casserole, some bread, some stuffing. You know, it allows for a traditional Thanksgiving meal, and they really like that. Even if they're going to go be with other family, it's things they could take to present. And a lot of our seniors are not able to do that. When it comes to National Night Out, our seniors many times live in communities that want to have programs, but they struggle to even buy extra buns so that you can put together a pulled pork sandwich or something.
Yeah.
So we feel that it is a great need for them because they get such a small segment of the food stamps out there.
Yeah, well, that still just surprises me, you know, that the food stamps are so, just not as widespread or as generous, if you will, that as I thought it was. But anyway, now you brought us a list, though. All right, Taylor, do you have that list I forwarded to you? There it is. And these are the things you're asking for the most. But green beans, see, it was interesting because Jennifer said, we got all the green beans we want.
Yeah.
So bring your green beans to Promises. Canned fruit, evaporated milk, because there's going to be some pies made.
Yep.
Canned yams, which, okay.
Same
but-
for me. I'm not a big yam person.
Well, I don't mind sweet potatoes, but I don't in the can. But that somebody likes it, so there
Yep.
you are. French fried onions, canned pumpkin, cream of mushroom soup. You have cranberry sauce, which again must be somebody likes it. So turkey gravy, marshmallows for the various that Jell-O salad thing we call pink stuff. You know, vast listening audience, probably my age and older, know what pink stuff is.
Yes, I do.
Stuff and mix and brown sugar. So you're asking for things for the recipient to build for themselves, not ready-made meals.
Correct.
You know, so they, and I think that's really important because there is probably more sense of pride in making something as opposed to here's a
Yes.
preset lunch or whatever.
I think that's really important. And again, especially for this demographic, kind of a sneak peek or heads up on something that's coming that kind of ties into this is the Johnson County Hunger, we used to call it Coalition. It had to change the last name, but we have in the last couple of days been working on a program that will help our seniors. We're going to help them with a list of looking, if I have $20 to spend, here's what I should buy from the store with that SNAP money. And here are things that I get already from the various pantries in the area. And so here are items to buy. Here are some recipes that would last you through the week or for the month as you make meals. And so we're going to be calling them in to do some training that will help them to be able to select food that is economical and be able to make some good meals that would also be economical. Because they're just not able to have all of the things that they once had, maybe to cook, or certainly not the spice cabinet that they used to have.
Right.
So I think that's important to help them to know you might not get as much money, but let's help you during the time that you're only getting X number of dollars. We can help you with how to spend that best.
Before Promises achieved the kind of the level of service they have now, I remember many times our church, First Baptist, providing a Thanksgiving meal. And I was in that kitchen, several of us from our Sunday school class were working in the kitchen, mostly cleaning and toting and fetching and all this other stuff. We had a couple of people that, that run the kitchen at our church that know what they were doing. But we haven't done that in a while. Is it because the expense is just too great? That's what I've been told. Also, the fact is they think it's, because I know this, is that the last couple of times we did that, it was either for Christmas or Thanksgiving. is that we had a lot of leftover food, and they thought that was
Exactly.
uneconomical. So just rather do it this way as opposed to providing a meal. Let's
Right.
use that money for something else.
It is largely that. It is hard to predict, hard to know exactly who's going to show up. We find that in many different things that we do, but also the health aspect of it. Some of the food handling guidelines have been tightened up, and so having to put together a way that you can effectively serve a large number of people and have a large amount of it cooked becomes an issue, because if they don't show up at the right time, you're throwing away something that was perfectly good, but it's been cooked now, and where you put it, and you have to be licensed to store it. And so it just becomes a bigger deal, where most of what we have, everything on that list is shelf stable. So
Right.
I can be buying it now or in January, and I could hold it for November.
Well, I do know the last couple of times we had like a couple of pans of dressing and a pan of turkey. We took it down to those, down on Lancaster, those
Yes.
homeless shelters there. And we had already prearranged it. We didn't just show up, here's some food.
Right.
But we'd be done about 9, 10 o'clock at night, and we'd take it down there, and they had the facilities, and they would use it for, their version of a Thanksgiving or Christmas meal.
Right.
But I did know, we were all thinking, boy, this is a lot of money. And we don't mind, spending it, but we'd like to have maybe a better return, so to speak.
Exactly.
A more efficient use of our money. But, this time of year must be tough, though, because November, December,
Yes.
you got all these holidays. And I always kind of feel badly for some of these people, a lot of these people, who see the commercials and they see the shopping malls and they see all this stuff going on, and it seems like, or on Facebook or whatnot, they see everybody else, having a really nice holiday season, and they're living out of their car.
Exactly.
It's hard to square together,
Yes.
And
And that population continues to grow. So I know that they see it, even if they were to walk into a grocery store to buy a drink or whatever, they're seeing these baskets full of food for people who are able to do that, and they're not able to. So I think that there is a need to do some prepared meals, but we would prefer that be done by the shelters and let us provide a way that they can cook for themselves. The reality is, though, Brad, you'd be surprised at how many have a home, but they have no means of cooking. They don't have refrigeration to store anything. And so what they take is very limited.
Well, I was going to ask you that around after the second round of commercials, because we were talking about that Monday, but also I'm kind of tying it into some of the conversations I've had with some of the couple of city council people as well. But that would be the hard part for me about this time, because as not just as a recipient, but I mean as somebody involved in promises and given to these people, and it just must be tough sometimes to see these people just barely making it.
Yeah. And sometimes it's just hard to know what to do. I had a situation of a lady has 2 teenage daughters, speaks very little English, but they had a whole family uprising, and it ended up displacing her and her 2 daughters. The lady works, she has a job, but she found an old RV to live in, and took her a while to find a place that would let her park it, because it's been hit before, been in a wreck. And as she came in and was talking to me, and she was telling me she had no refrigeration, and this was in the middle of the summer when we were running 110, 112 degrees. And what had brought her in was the little air conditioner they had quit. And as I was talking to her, we had somebody that dropped off, and I mean, it is rusty looking, ugly on the outside, but on the inside, I had a chest freezer that worked. And I offered it to her, and she said, I can't take it because where the RV had been hit, the door doesn't open wide enough for us to even get the chest freezer through there. So it's like, to me, I just think, how many things can pile up on these people, but yet they still come, they still have a smile on their face lots of times. So there is a resilience to people that amazes me, that they face things that I have not had to face in my life, and they still stand upright, and they may need help, but they are doing the best with what they've got.
Yeah.
And I admire somebody who continues to go to work and do that, even though things are a struggle. I just think we need to remember that we are blessed, and all of us have been given the task to help.
And almost all these cases, though, they don't have a family to support them.
Correct.
And, are they like single mothers? Are they just they don't have any children and they're 70 years old, or they don't have any family in the area? That's the primary who y'all see.
Yes.
Because I've had people before said their family should be taking care of them. Well, not everybody has a family to do that.
Right. The bulk of ours have a family somewhere, but most of them do not have family in the area. I do deal with one man who has absolutely nobody. He is the last of his family that he's ever been aware of, that we're aware of on this earth. So I can't imagine that he does get lonely at times because he's not able to drive and stuff, elderly gentleman. But most of them have somebody. Some of them do have children, adult children, but there's been family trauma that has put distance between those. So having somebody you can count on is where the issue is. Sometimes there's family, but it's not family you can count on. We try to get them help to resolve those issues, because I think one of the best things to do is to be with family who can help you, because I think blood is thicker than water. And so I would love for them to have that, but that doesn't always turn out to be the case. Sometimes it does. We've been able to help people to mend and get back together through our counseling center. But yeah, a lot of these folks, this particular lady had been divorced, and she's got family in Mexico, but she doesn't have family here. So she's working. Again, she's trying to make things meet, and she won't take something that she doesn't feel she could use. So I think that's
another thing, though. How many of your clients are English is not their natural language? I mean, how many people are from Central America, Mexico, et cetera?
We have increased that, and I would say, I don't know an exact count, Brad, but I think maybe 45%.
Yeah.
And that's growing. We're seeing more and more of them come. We had a pretty good base of them. COVID hit and they disappeared. They were afraid to be on the road and stuff because so few people out. They felt they were a greater target. So that has now started coming back up. But we're not only seeing them from there, we are seeing there's a growing Ukraine group of people, yes. So we have some of those Pacific Islanders who most can speak some English. There might be some semantics and stuff that's different, but for the most part, they can get by. And then Africa. We've had a growing base from Africa, and they lots of times they congregate in areas, so they're in like the same apartment complex, and they'll come in together, and we'll have those. But certainly, Spanish is the primary second language.
Do we have somebody that can speak Spanish there?
Yes, we do.
Oh, good.
They're not there all the time, though. They do volunteer several days a week, and if they really need that, we try to tell them, if you'll come back on this date during these hours, we'll have somebody here for you.
Well, my Spanish is very, very mediocre, but I learned some Spanglish, as we call it, teaching school, because I was getting more students towards the last 4 or 5 years that were English was not their first language at all. I don't recall, but a couple of students in my career that came from somewhere other than Latin America. They couldn't speak English, but it sounds like we're becoming the crossroads of the world or something like that.
I do think so. And certainly apps on the computer can help, because we can type in English what we're trying to get. And
there's Google Translate on my phone.
Yes. Some of our volunteers will use that. It can take a long time to get through whatever it is that you need to do that, but we have had to use it. We do have some people in our church that allow us to call them, but they're not always available when we call. But we try to accommodate them, because we do know we need that. And we have actually right now 3 of our volunteers who are fully bilingual.
Well, First Baptist has a very substantial Hispanic community. They provided lunch for the church about 2 Sundays ago.
Yes.
And what's always interesting to me is that, in Texas, we think everybody that doesn't speak English is from Mexico. And they demonstrated that, they're from all over Latin America. And the students I've taught that were English second language, I remember one group of them were from Honduras, another group of them were from Nicaragua.
Yes.
So we just assume everybody's from Mexico, but that's not true at all.
Absolutely, it's not.
How do you respond to somebody think that they probably very likely are not here with documentation, as they say? Does that matter even an iota about who
Not
we
at
helped?
all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
That's what I figured.
We are asking them some questions, and I know that some of it makes them nervous, but no, not at all. And we try to assure them of that. Do not be afraid of this. We do take the information, but that is not what's looked at. If we get inspected, they're looking at not proof of it, but what they say they make in the household. And it's based on trust. And so they really don't need to fear.
Get inspected by whom?
We are inspected by Tarrant Area Food Bank, which is inspected through USDA. So in essence, we are inspected, but I can tell you their inspections have far little to do with our documentation. It has much more to do with food safety.
Yeah. Okay.
And so when they come in, they're looking at how we have it. Do we get our exterminating done on a regular basis? That type of thing of making sure that our food pantry is held to a high health standard.
Well, I was just thinking though, because a lot of the people you may be serving may be very reluctant,
Yes,
to come to Promises or any other group because they may not know how y'all are set up, and you think
Right.
you're an arm of the government or whatever, or you're going to report them to the government, and they may be going without, and we can't really have that. We got to that's a non-issue.
it is. And I will tell you, the USDA, one of our demands of us to be attached to them is that we refuse food to no one.
Right.
So you're gonna get some food no matter what. But they don't really need to fear that. But they don't trust us as much as those who we can get to speak their language.
Yes.
We have an interesting situation, I think. The lady is fascinating. I don't know if you know her, Brad. Her name is Alejandra Castro, but she is a missionary from China. She speaks Spanish. She's from, I believe it's Honduras. But she has been in China for a long time. She is a licensed psychologist and has been a missionary in China. So she speaks Mandarin fluently. She speaks German, but she also speaks Spanish fluently. And she is working there at Promises.
Wow. What an
with us.
asset.
She is tremendous. She refuses to break the law, and she has been working she came here right as COVID hit, and she's not been able to get back to China since. She owns a home and has a business in China, but she hadn't been able to get back there. Her and her handicapped son are staying here. They attend our Espanol, but she is an amazing lady, but is struggled for these 2 years to complete the green card process to be legal.
It's a beating.
It is a beating and expensive.
And yes, I've heard that there's so many reasons, and a lot of these people would like to go through the process.
Yes.
But it's such like you said, expensive and long term and just exhausting process. Some people just say, I'll just pass on that. But it's like, I've had a couple of people, not many. Most Burleson people are pretty generous, but they were upset by the fact that BISD, among all the other school districts, they don't ask for citizenship.
Yes.
We teach the kids that live in our district, and we don't even ask whether they're here legally or not. And they got pretty upset. And they also are eligible for the free breakfast and lunch. I'm like, what are you going to do? You're going to take these kids out and say, beat it? I mean, no, it's like Jesus telling his disciples at the feeding of the 5,000. Now, make sure you check for their citizenship before they get a fish or a loaf. That's just, I just want to punch them in the mouth.
Yeah. I agree. It can get frustrating, but
I know, but
we
still.
don't care where you're from. Don't care about your legal status. We just are blessed to be able to provide food, and we want to do that. And I will tell you, anything from TAFB or USDA who has been in our pantry, they don't care about that either. They care about that we're being safe with food.
Right. We're going to run through the second round here, and then we're going to talk about the city's response and your group's response, the little cohort of nonprofit peers you have, and all this, because I think now it's become more noticeable to the public at large. Because, like you say, and Jennifer says, and Lisa Schwartz will be on Tuesday, on Halloween Day, so many of our homeless are under the radar because they're not living in tents or living in their cars or just flopping from one place to another.
Exactly.
Well, anyway, let's go ahead and talk about this. Today is a big day over at Southern Gym. They're having an open house, and they're raffling off this really, really nice ring. It's very pretty, and it's for $1 a ticket, and the money goes to the Hughley Breast Cancer Center. And a lot of people in our B&I group yesterday they were buying tons of tickets because that's a nice ring. That's not... that's a pretty generous donation, to say the least. I've seen it. As everybody knows, my wife works there, and I went by yesterday to drop some stuff off for this open house, and it's very nice. And so, go by today and get in this raffle, like you see on the screen here. They're open now, and they'll be open until 7:00 today. And you may not hear this in time. You listen to it on the podcast, but they're still going to be open for business, and it's a really big deal. And have a little glass of champagne with Gayla, and there's a gift bag and all that. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And so drop on by there. It's over at the Standard, right beside American Revelry. Also, Old Pro Roofing. I guess last night you found out if your roof is good or not. I had mine inspected after that storm we had about 3 or 4 months ago, and John comes in and tells me, John Williams at Old Pro, tells me my roof is fine. And that's great because last night when it's coming down pretty hard, I had that peace of mind, so to speak. I didn't worry about it. 817-734-2756. And it really is nice not to, oh boy, here comes a storm. I hope I don't have a hole in my roof, which is a bad time to find out. So 817-734-2756. And speaking of water damage, if you did get some last night, call Lisa and Morris Smith over at Stomp Restoration, and they'll check it out. You got to have it inspected anyway because mold in Texas is about as common as can be, and you don't want to let this thing go too long. So have them come by, do a mold test. Also, if you do have some sort of biohazard or weather hazard, they can help you with that very much. So give them a call. Also, I had these 2 young ladies on last Tuesday, Sammy Campbell and Candy Gow of Camco Mortgage. They haven't changed locations. They just formed their own company. And they're on the 3rd floor of that building in the B&G Plaza, standalone on the south end. So either give them a call. You can call Sammy at 817-778-4592 or Candy over at 817-925-2661. Also, we have some big day coming up in about 2 weeks, the election on November 7th. And Burleson doesn't have a bond, but a lot of Burlesonians will be affected by this bond, and that would be the Joshua ISD bond. We have, I believe, 3 elementary schools that are in Burleson city limits, but Joshua ISD, and those schools are the ones that are growing the most because that's where the growth is going. And so the people of Joshua, the Joshua ISD, need to expand. You don't want to get in a situation where you're having kids overcrowded in the schools, because I could tell you as a teacher, nothing makes it more difficult when you have 38 to 40 kids, and particularly elementary kids. My goodness, I don't think I'd get through that day without a whiskey flask. But anyway, but the point is, November 7th, Joshua, show up. Early voting's already started. I voted on Monday on the Texas amendments, and so Candy and Sammy would urge y'all to vote for Proposition 4, which deals with the homestead exemption. I would urge y'all to vote for Proposition 9, which would increase TRS payments to retired old folks like me. It's not much, but it's better than nothing. So there you go. All right. Now, here's the thing about the homeless situation that we keep talking about. And, when we were all here as a group about a month ago, it was obvious that y'all already collaborate together to some degree. And I don't know if it's in a formal way, but I do know that y'all keep each other informed about what's going on. And I mentioned this to Victoria and Adam Russell. And particularly with Victoria, she would like to see the city get involved, not in a manner of providing money or a shelter or something like that, because first of all, we don't have the money for that. Second of all, I don't know how effective that would be. And where would you put it anyway? Right. So, I mentioned that, and I had a couple of people say, wait a minute, you want the city to spend money on this? No, but I think the city should help have a response to this in a coordinated fashion, and you all have the information to do it,
Yeah, I think that would be good. I think that a partnership of all is the best way to get it done fast. Because I think that we've done a good bit of talking we haven't done a whole lot to make the difference yet. And I think it's hard for any one person to do that.
I think Victoria's going to put that together, a task force.
I would love
that. I think that's going to be something that she's been very interested in. It's not like the city council was unaware, but I don't think they really, until you and Jennifer and Lisa and others, the people next up and all this, has said, wait a minute, this is a bigger deal than you think, because just because we don't have people living in tents under the bridge doesn't mean we don't have homeless problems.
Right.
And people that need help.
Exactly.
And so I think, I really think after the new year starts, there will be some sort of collaboration with the city.
I think that would be great to help them with resources. We just in society do not make it easy for people to get back on their feet. And we see that. We have seen an increase in previously incarcerated. I'm not talking about violent crimes, but they've been incarcerated. And boy, we make it an uphill climb for them when they get out.
Absolutely.
And I think that's wrong. So I think if we could come together with some location where we could get some of those basic needs met, providing them food is not an issue, and all of us do that. But there needs to be more to help them, because I think if we don't have it available quickly, they will quickly go back to whatever they were in.
And to those that think that if the city got involved, that it's going to cost them money, that probably won't cost them hardly anything, because you already done the footwork and the data research, and you already have the connections and the facilities. So we're not talking about the city, creating a major budget burden of any kind. Second of all, the idea that if, as a city, we become known as being proactive and successful in dealing with this problem, we're going to attract more of it. Well, they're here already. All right. I just don't. I know they're here.
Yes.
You know they're here, and the idea that if we effectively deal with this problem, we're just going to create a bigger problem, I think is a bit counterintuitive, to say the least.
Yeah, I think that it could be done. We allow in promises. Aetna comes and sets up once a week. Humana does. TAFB will help you with SNAP. If you could put together something that allows these folks help in getting set up on things, some of them don't have any type of connection. I think it would make a huge difference, because it allows them to get in the pipeline for services, as well as on a wait list for a place to live at discounted rates.
Yeah.
And so you could have a one-stop shop. And so, like you said, it's not talking a lot of money. You come to us, you could set up in the lobby, you can still have private conversations, and we're certainly willing to do that if we can get somebody that can help. John, as he comes in, he might sit here with Humana or whatever gets set up. He might sit with this person for food stamps. He's helping the next person to help him get set up through Texas Neighborhood Services or some application that puts him in line for assisted living. Not assisted helping them to live, but rent assistance. So I think that it could be kind of a one-stop shop, and that would be the best way for us to go.
Well, you have people, even American citizens born in this country, that still don't know how to access government services.
Absolutely.
We're not talking about somebody who may just immigrated from some other place and has no idea about how our government works. You'd be surprised. I'm always disappointed how many Americans don't know how our government works, and but basically, if some catastrophe happened to me, and I was become homeless for whatever reason, I wouldn't know the first person to call. I mean, and I like to think I'm an educated person, and I might have an idea, but I wouldn't know myself. I wouldn't know the first person to call or who to call for this or that or the other, and I think that's what we're talking about here with this task force, is creating a coordinated response. That when you get people that need X, Y, or Z, then here are the numbers, here are the people, here's the process, whatever forms you need.
Right.
Now, most people that you deal with, do they have access to the internet?
Most do not.
Okay, so they'd probably do the old-fashioned paper forms, or they'd need to come in and have somebody fill it in for them.
Or the only way they have it is through a phone, and that's small, and that can be a challenge when you're accessing websites that you're having to fill out forms.
Yes.
Promises is trying to gain license to be a salvage pantry, which we do not have right now. And we feel it could benefit us as well as the neighbors that we serve. And I don't think I'm the most intelligent person, but I also don't think I'm the dullest bulb. And I have been working for 6 weeks, and I get interrupted a lot, but I'm trying to read, how do I gain this license, which is a government licensing. And I'm telling you, I've been about as frustrated as I can be.
Oh, yes.
So imagine if you're with limited resources, because I have a lot of resources, but I do feel that if we can do that, them trying to go through and get things set up would be so much easier and less frustrating, because you get so frustrated. You go to this, sends you to something else, and then you're like, well, do I do this or do I do that? I just think having somebody to walk you through those steps would be a wonderful asset, because I'm telling you, they will get frustrated just like I do, trying to get through the maze of paperwork that's required. And they want you to do it online, but it's not intuitive lots of times what it is that you need to do.
And it also goes back to the issue of trust. I mean, do some of these people trust what's happened? Do you have to be either a citizen or legal resident to access things like food stamps, or is it pretty much that? Is that even asked?
I think it's asked, but I don't think it's validated all the time, because we have people that we know are not legal who are receiving some benefits.
And like you said, it ain't much, but
yeah,
you know, I have concerns about our immigration system, and our border is out of control. And I've talked about it before. I really am concerned we have such a lack of control. But you know, when you're dealing with it face to face like you are. You know, you just can't pull that "Are you a citizen?" card.
Right.
You really can't, and I don't think Christ would find that to be an appropriate question to ask.
And the only support or organization that I'm aware of that does that, Brad, is legal aid. And in legal aid, if you do not have legal status, they will not assist you. But most of the others, I don't see them being that staunch. If you're not legal, we're not going to help you. SNAP or Medicaid, Medicare, those seem to be a little bit more lax on it.
Well, particularly, I mean, every county has a county hospital or some sort of health facility.
Yes.
And that's where they go.
Yes.
And they don't ask that question.
Correct.
And so, I mean, and people get worked up about that. I'm not trying to say that we need to open up our borders or anything like that. We do need stronger borders and a much more controlled process. So we do need to vet who comes into our country, because not everybody's here for the right reasons.
Right.
But I just think sometimes when it comes to these kind of programs, it's really not the money that's the issue. I mean, we spend so much money on junk in our government that money spent on these non-resident or non-legal residents is trifling.
It is. The lady that I mentioned earlier, who's the missionary in China, who's been here, not been able to get home since COVID started, she was sharing with me the other day, and I don't want to be too political, but this is a woman who entered this country legally and has been working since she got here to get her status changed, to have her green card, to be able to legally work here. But yet we had people who showed up at the border and they immediately gave them a green card.
Right.
They have not paid the $15,000 that she's had to work to get, even though she can't do her work. You know, our church and others have come alongside her. She has people who've offered her a job, but she will not work until she can legally do so.
Well,
because she feels it affects her ministry. But my point is that we do, I think, we are inconsistent. And it can be frustrating, and people say, what the heck, and they just go do whatever.
Well, it just like, yeah, you're right. I'll handle the politics on another show, but our system is really screwy. And I don't believe in just, you know, automatically making them citizens and all this other stuff. But I do believe that, you know, if we had a proper and effective border security and an immigration system, a lot of these questions would not be as severe as they are now.
Exactly.
And so that's again another show. But as far as the city's involvement, I've talked to several people, you know, and most of them, they have a heart for this.
Yes.
But they also sometimes feel like, are we getting scammed? You know, they feel like, are we getting taken advantage of? I'm not talking about the, non-legal residents. I'm talking about anybody.
Right.
Are we getting scammed? Do you encounter that very often?
I think it is hard to fight against that mentality because it's easy to fall into it because you see injustices, and so you think, who do I believe? What is going on? So I think it can be easy to fall into that. I certainly hear from our clients. Some of them are extremely vocal, extremely loud about feeling that it's all a scam. And so I think that can be a deterrent to progress. Yes.
I want a client, one who's receiving this, be yelling about possible scams.
Because they feel it's not done equitably.
Oh, okay. Well, it's that the donors might feel that way.
Brad gets it, but I don't. Well, there's certainly donors who we hear that every day in the news. There's people who are on each side of the fence for that. But yeah, I think that it's hard not to be a little jaded in thought process. But I think that's been history. I think we forget that it's that way and has been that way really forever. Well, or at least in my life.
Well, yeah, but we think about our history and older generations, and they were all working. No, they weren't. There were bums back in the greatest generation. There were guys that were scamming the system back in the 30s, 40s, 50s.
Right.
And all this. So this idea that back in the day no one did that's ridiculous. But we really can't let that get in the way of the much greater number of those who really legitimately need help. I mentioned before, my mother used to work at a similar situation before her health kind of took her out of it over in Corsicana. And she sometimes would say, I don't know if all these people need as much help as that they're getting. But her attitude was, for every one of those, there's 9 others that really need it. And we can't say to the other 9, maybe not, just because of this bum over here.
Exactly. And that is absolutely true, that it is far more people who are legitimate, need the help, appreciative of the help, and willing to do whatever they can to try to help that. It far outweighs those who take advantage. But do we have those that do? And that's why I say you have to fight against that, because I've had people that showed up to get food, and you're thinking, how can you afford that? And you're coming to me for food. Because it doesn't add up. Right. Something else is going on. I've had those where you're just going, there's not something true in your story. But I try to fight against that because, again, I know that the preponderance of people who come are legitimate.
Right. It would seem to me, and I'm just making an assumption, that that the people who are coming with legitimate needs probably are somewhat reserved or humbled by it, and they don't, and they're self-conscious about it. Whereas somebody that's scamming the system probably just, wouldn't have that kind of humility about it. They come in and I need this, that, and the other. Thank you very much. But there are most people, and I've dealt with some of this, where people are like, I'm here. I really wish I didn't have to be here, but here I am. That kind of thing.
I absolutely have that. I get that even at church. People will approach me at church who are truly in need of assistance, but will not give in to having to come and seek it. They don't want anybody to know. They feel like they are a failure, that type of thing, and so they don't want to come. So we certainly have that gamut. We have some who are just so humbled and appreciative that you can barely get them out the door without they're wanting to hug you. They want, because they know, they are being blessed.
Well, it's kind of like the counseling part of Promises. I was reluctant to go there for a while. This is about a decade ago, because I didn't want somebody to see me walking out of a counseling office and think he must be having mental and emotional problems. I always thought so. That kind of thing. I knew it. I knew he was crazy and that kind of stuff. So I was really reluctant because, particularly, you go in that facility, and of course, it's being part of our church. It's staffed by our church members,
right?
And so I was reluctant to kind of expose that part of my life to people that actually knew me, as opposed to doing it anonymously. And we're still small enough town that probably a lot of people feel that way. Yeah, they're afraid to be seen at the Harvest House or at Promises or Next Step or you name it, because they're afraid of the social stigma that goes with that.
Exactly.
And they shouldn't, and they should not.
I agree.
They should not.
I don't care who you are. I'm having to figure out how to pay bills that have doubled. I think we all live to what we make and what we have, and all of a sudden I'm paying double for those things.
Right.
It's hard on everybody. I'm still very blessed, but the reality is not that I'm not having to think about cost. That I have to think about that.
Well, I was talking, like I said, we're talking about Jennifer, and she's talking about how expensive food is getting. I'm going to the grocery store after we're done here, and I'm dreading it. It's not that. Well, I dread it for a lot of reasons. Those old ladies in the go-karts, they don't mind running you right over. It's like the backstretch of Daytona sometimes at HEB. But it's not just that, but it's just, I'm not one of those back in the day when, Dr. Pepper was a nickel kind of guys, but it's astounding what's happened in the last 2 years.
So quickly. I think that's what's made it so noticeable, is that it happened very quickly.
Well, I quoted, I think you were the one who told me, but I quoted to Jennifer that it's now like $750 to $800 more per month to live than it was 2 years ago.
Yes.
And that's $9,600 a year roughly. And it's, so it's just, this is going to be happening to all our communities.
I agree.
And we just need to understand that some of the old, I don't want to say prejudices, but maybe that's the word, or inhibitions about providing these kind of services, that's going to have to go away, because they're not going away.
Right.
And for the grace of God, go I, kind of thing, right?
Right. I totally agree. We need to have a mindset. But I do feel like we're getting some of that. I feel like there is some shift to understanding that not everybody who comes for assistance is some lazy bum somewhere.
No.
Many of them work. They work every day. They just don't make enough.
Well, yes.
Because of the cost.
Yeah, and that's, another thing is, Jennifer said about the homeless, and this is probably your experience as well. Most of these people actually have jobs.
Yes.
Or they have maybe government assistance like Social Security, but it's not enough.
Yes.
But that's the real problem.
Yes.
Is that, and you think, wow, they're making $18 an hour. That's about $32,000 a year. And back maybe 10 years ago, that was sufficient. It ain't now when you have rent that's $1,800.
Exactly. And if you've never been taught, we have a lady just this week who we've become attached to. We had known her before. She works. She has a decent job. She has a special needs son, 18 years old. But she's even taking Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University. But what she says is, I am so overwhelmed by the debt I have to try to get to where I need to be. I am overwhelmed to the point that I can't move. And so she is now working with, we call them care counselors, but a lady who's helping her to try to do a budget and do that. So I admire somebody who says, look, I should be able to do better. I don't know how to do it. Nobody's ever taught me those things. Help me to get there, because that's where I want to be. And I think that's great. We're going to spend everything we can to help her. Doesn't really cost us anything but time, but we want to help her to be able to learn to do that, because then she in turn can help her son. I just think that I'm seeing changes where people are going, I can't live that life anymore.
Well, and I look at my children's generation, my son that's 31, my daughter's 28, and so many of the things that they wanted for themselves are beyond their means. House, a better car,
right?
And they both have jobs. They have good jobs. We're not talking about $15 an hour. They make a professional wage, but I talked to my son about this, and he says at his income and his girlfriend's income, the house they can afford isn't even available because houses are so much more expensive, and the rent goes up, and all this. And it's frustrating for both my daughter and my son, because they feel like they've been cheated out of what their expectations were. Right.
Exactly.
And they're kind of bitter about that.
I have some of that reality myself. I don't live in Burleson, don't live in Johnson County. I think I've mentioned before, I live up northwest, up by Saginaw. I wanted to move to Burleson. I couldn't afford to.
Yeah, right. And my daughter and I were looking at apartments not too long ago, and it just, it was considerably higher than what I'm paying in my mortgage.
Yeah, it's kind of unreal. And so, I'm not homeless, but I certainly couldn't make the change and pay what needed to, knowing what I had right now.
Well, I'm not homeless either, but I do know that the idea of me selling my home and buying another one's out.
Yes.
Because I couldn't afford to maintain, much less, improve my status. I'd be hard pressed just to break even.
Exactly.
So I don't know. We could blame the politicians all we want, and that's again another topic for another show. But I think that these economic realities, though, are something all y'all face.
Yes.
And Taylor, will you put that list up one more time so the people who catch the show at the end,
And if anybody is able to donate, Brad, they are welcome to drop by. Promises, we'll help them unload it out of the car or get the bag, and we appreciate any help we can get as we try to take care of the seniors in Johnson County.
Yes, and so most of this is holiday related, like cream of mushroom soup. That's what you make casseroles out of, right?
The green bean casserole that you don't like.
No, I don't. But here's the list, but basically, is there anything you don't need? I mean,
no. We would take any, especially any shelf-stable food. We will take meat. We have to have frozen, but that's all shelf-stable, and we will take any or all of that you could help with.
Well, we're at the end, so tell us what you'd like for us to know.
Well, first, thanks again. All this said, and all of the angst that we feel over the homeless situation here, Burleson and Johnson County at large are extremely generous. And I appreciate that. I get to see it every day, that generous attitude. So thanks for that. But the need continues to grow. And so I believe that we all are given talents and abilities. And I just say, check with yourself to see if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, because it might be that you're supposed to be donating that can of cream of chicken soup.
Yeah.
But we want to have that, and we need help in order to continue being a ministry.
Well, a trip to Costco or Sam's won't be a bad idea.
Yeah.
So
and we're not talking a lot of money. Like I said, you don't have to buy everything on the list, but even if you did, you probably wouldn't be looking at maybe $15.
I think another thing is a lot of people think if I'm not pulling up with there with a box truck full of food, I'm not. It's like no. If you just come up with a flat, a flat of soup or whatever, all that adds up to a lot. It's the widow's mites.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So well, it was
thanks,
great.
Brad, for letting me come on.
Sure, we're going to schedule time because I'm sure your needs of Christmas will be significant. So. But it's always enjoy these shows. I really do. I feel like I'm doing something decent with this show, as opposed to me just ranting about Joe Biden. They can hear me do that anytime. but I don't mind doing it. But still, but on Monday we're going to have representatives from Elevate Joshua here to talk about the bond, and that's going to be a lot of fun. And then on Tuesday, Lisa Schwartz. And then on Thursday, we're going to have Gayla on, and she's going to talk about her open house and all her Christmas plans. And she and I were talking about this yesterday. She's getting booked up for a lot of things for Christmas. So if you want to have something repaired or designed, you better get moving, guys. Other than that, Taylor, thank you for your nimble keyboard activity.
Always.
And we'll see y'all again next Monday.